Hello everyone, it's Casey Vineyard here at Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. We are so excited to have you here as we talk about our newest at-home mission through Mission Conservation, celebrating Earth Day through nature photography. We have had the honor to partner with Nature's Best Photography to launch this month's mission. Throughout this month, you will get to meet multiple partners to learn about the exquisite eye of photography, as well as promoting conservation through Earth Day awareness. This mission is the perfect way to learn about conservation as a piece of art. So in order to play this really fun mission, all you have to do is log on to our mission conservation page at www.wondersofwildlife.org/mission-conservation. That will bring you down to the mission conservation webpage. So on this website, I will bring your attention down to get the app. Once you click download, that will take you to download the Agents of Discovery app, which you will need to play any mission conservation mission. Once you have that app downloaded, create a user account and log in. Hit the search bar, type in mission conservation, and that is where we house all of our at-home missions, and they will pop up for you to play. Once you have the mission popped up and loaded, we are going to direct you down to another part of the website where it says schedule of missions and activities. This tab will show you all of the missions that we have live, including our current mission, celebrating Earth Day through nature photography. So under this tab, you will also find our activity guide that we have specifically made for you at home. There will be a craft, an awesome outdoor activity, and something that you can do to promote conservation for Earth Day awareness. So I'm currently standing here in our mangroves exhibit. Mangrove trees assist in preventing shore erosion, housing multiple species of aquatic animals and birds, and they also help stabilize coastlines. One of the biggest threats to these beneficial species is pollution, and that brings me to our partner for the day. We have Lori Davis and Clarissa Hatley, educational outreach staff with the City of Springfield Department of Environmental Services. What a mouthful. How are you guys doing today?
We are great, Casey.
I'm so glad. What do you have for us?
Well, Clarissa and I are so excited to be here on behalf of the City of Springfield's Department of Environmental Services. One of the best things about our job as educators with environmental services is that we get to work with our city's expert staff who every day are helping take care of our air, water, and land resources, right, Clarissa?
Yep.
So today we're going to introduce you to some of the things that our staff do every single day to take care of our rivers, lakes, and streams that we find in our area. You know, it is so easy to take for granted that we live on a planet that is covered with this stuff, water. We as human beings must have fresh water in order to stay alive. And some of you may find this absolutely amazing, but humans can actually live longer without food than they can without fresh water.
Hey, Lori,
so
do you mind
taking care.
1 second?
Yep.
Is your camera on? I don't think we can see you on our side.
Uh-oh.
It might be on the Zoom part. You might want to go down to the bottom and turn on your camera for that.
Okay, it's showing on our end that our camera is on.
We didn't turn it off.
Mm.
So modify a little bit.
Okay, we're doing some all the troubleshooting in the world.
Shooting all the way. It's okay.
We might have to disconnect and reconnect if she wants to go ahead and do her activity.
Okay, we might have to disconnect and reconnect.
That's okay. So while you do that, we'll go ahead and Kendra, can you send her another link to this? And then while we're waiting on her to connect back, I'm going to go ahead and teach you some Leave No Trace principles. So today they're here to talk about water quality and pollution. And one of my favorite things to teach about is Leave No Trace. So Leave No Trace is an ethic of the land. So it's just pretty much the campsite rule. Leave things better than you found it. So I'm going to go ahead and teach you these 7 principles with really fun hand signs that helps it stick a little bit in your brain. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1. So principle number 1 is plan ahead and prepare. So we're going to have number 1 standing out, and we're going to have a flat palm. So number 1 is plan ahead and prepare, like you're writing in your notebook. So plan ahead and prepare. That's anything from knowing before you go. So make sure you read the maps, look at the weather. It's really important that you do that just because you never know what kind of safety precautions you can get in. So number one, plan ahead and prepare, or know before you go. Okay, number two, we're gonna have our number two sticking up in a flat palm, and we're gonna walk on our here. And this is travel and camp on durable surfaces. So it is super important, not only for the wildlife, but as well as the plants and the rocks and the environment, to travel and camp on durable surfaces. This is just super important because you never know what's living there. You want to be able to allow other participants, other viewers, other people that are coming to the same place that you are to be able to see exactly what you see when you go through. So travel and camp on durable surfaces. Okay, so number three, we're just gonna stick all three fingers really close together and we're gonna make a scoop. Okay, and so this is dispose of waste properly. And so today they will be talking a little bit about disposing of waste properly. Okay, so number three, we're digging a cat hole and we are disposing of waste properly, whether that be packing in, packing out, whether that be the bathroom that you have to use, you might have to take that out with you. You have to make sure that you look at your park's rules and regulations. Okay. So next we're going to move on to number four. Number four is one of my favorites. So we're going to stick all four fingers together and we're going to make it fall down really fun and pretty like this. So this is leave what you find, or leaf what you find. So we like to say, take nothing but pictures and leave nothing but photographs. So number four is leave what you find. Okay. Moving on to number five, we're going to have a flat palm. And we're going to stick our palm on top and we're going to make little spirit fingers. So number five is minimize campfire impact. So a number five with spirit fingers and a flat palm, and we are going to minimize campfire impacts. So we want to make sure that we have small tweedy fires. We want to make sure that we are looking at all the regulations of the park before we travel and head out into those parks. So if there is a high alert for fires, we want to make sure that we're not having any fires. Okay, and that's just for the safety of all people, for the safety of all animals in the entire atmosphere. Okay, so five spirit fingers, and it's going to be minimize campfire impact. This next one is super important as well. So number six, we can either do 3 and 3 and put them on our head here, or we can do a thumbs up and a high five here and stick them together. So this one here is going to be number 6, respect wildlife. Okay, so we're going to make a turkey and respect wildlife, or we're going to make a deer and respect wildlife. Okay, so the last one is a really fun one that is good for everybody. We're going to have a peace sign and a wave, and we are going to be respectful to other visitors. So be respectful of other visitors with a peace sign and a wave. And it looks like we have our friends back with the Department of Environmental Services. So how are you guys doing? You're back and ready? Oh, we can't hear you. Hey, Lori, I don't think your mic's on. There we go. Perfect.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
We are good to go. So we are excited to talk about the ways that our city staff helps take care of our local rivers, lakes, and streams. And it's so easy to forget that water is so important to us as humans, especially fresh water. And so taking care of the fresh water on our rivers, lakes, and streams on planet Earth is a really important thing to be able to do. But there is a growing problem in Springfield as well as other places around the country. It is this, it's trash of all different shapes and sizes and types and kinds. And we found that during a recent community cleanup event that we had in our city, cleaning up places and spaces where trash was located, there were so many different types of trash everywhere. We found things like tires and mattresses and dirty diapers, ew, and cigarette butts and metal cans and glass jars and wood and clothing, types and kinds of trash of all different sorts in all different places of our environment, including our water sources. And so when we started looking at what types of trash were being collected in our community, we started noticing that the number one material that was being collected in our community was plastic water bottles, styrofoam, cups, plastic straws, plastic shopping bags, plastic, plastic, plastic. It was everywhere. And the thing that makes plastic really hard is that plastic doesn't decompose or break apart and go back into nature. Plastic just keeps breaking down into smaller and smaller and smaller bits and pieces of more plastic. And so that plastic is starting to make its way into our water environment, into our soil, becoming something really bad in our environment. So you might be thinking, I don't do this. I make sure I always clean up all of my trash. And I make sure that any trash that I've got gets into a trash can. Well, the trash can actually become part of the problem. You might have something in your trash that an animal in your neighborhood finds very tasty, and so goes digging in your trash can to find that tasty treat and ends up knocking your trash can over, and you wake up to trash scattered all over your front yard. Or maybe your family is creating so much trash that it doesn't even fit in all of your bins. You have to pile it outside of the bins. And then the trash that you do put into the bins is stuffed so full that you can't close the lid and latch it tight. And so trash that ends up laying out and about, whether it's from our trash can or somebody dumps it out on purpose, trash has a way of making its way out into the environment, and it gets moved around in a couple of different ways. One way that trash can get moved around is through wind. Watch what happens when our handy dandy fan becomes our wind, and what does it do to our trash? That trash begins to blow. Some of it moves more quickly than others. Some of my metal containers aren't going as fast, but trash that gets blown about by wind is going to end up in lots of different places where it's not supposed to be out in our environment. And another way that trash can get moved around is through rain. I'm going to use this paint tray to represent a typical neighborhood. And the smooth surface of this paint tray represents that smooth surface of our neighborhood streets and sidewalks. And I've got my houses and my school and my businesses. And then down at the bottom of my paint tray, I have a stream. These little Post-it notes represent trash that's laying out and about on our neighborhood streets, in our parks, in the school playground, trash laying out and about. And then I'm going to use a water bottle to represent some rain. And here in Missouri, we have been getting lots of rain lately. And as we make it rain, our trash gets heavier and heavier. It gets goopy, it gets soggy. It, with a little bit of oomph and maybe some extra wind, it makes its way down into our stream environment so that trash is getting down into our stream. So what is the problem with that? What is the effect of trash in our freshwater streams, rivers, and lakes? Clarissa has that answer.
Okay, so trash that reaches the water source, it usually floats along downstream along with the water or the wind current Lori was talking about until it eventually becomes trapped along the bank by plants, roots, trees, even other man-made structures like bridges and culverts. And when the water current or the wind current eventually slows down enough, or even the trash becomes too heavy or waterlogged, and for that water current to carry it, well, it begins to sink down to the bottom and it can get stuck along the bottom of the stream. Well, anything like once the trash reaches the water source, it actually becomes a source of pollution. And pollution just means that anything that is introduced into the environment that's harmful to the living things or our air, water, and land resources. So most of us have probably seen these big animals that have gotten caught in trash or tangled up in nets or all kinds of things like that, or even eaten items that have made them sick or even killed them. But what we often forget to think about are actually those smaller animals that live in our rivers, lakes, and streams. I'm talking about macroinvertebrates, and you're thinking, macro what? Well, if we break this word down into two parts, macro just means big enough to be seen with the naked eye without using a microscope. And invertebrate just means an animal that doesn't have a backbone. So if we put that all together, aquatic macroinvertebrates are just water bugs that we can see with the naked eye that don't have backbones. Well, a little bit about their habitat. So aquatic macroinvertebrates that live on our rivers, lakes, and streams, they hang out along the bottom in the sand, cobble, gravel, and even roots and other type of organic debris. You can actually see a couple of them to the left clinging on to the rocks and gravel in the bottom of the stream. This is kind of a good idea of what their habitat looks like. So Lori and I went out a couple weeks ago to test the water quality in South Creek by taking kick net samples of the macroinvertebrate habitat. We can catch the macroinvertebrates in the net by kicking or stirring up the rocks and debris along the bottom of the stream and letting the water push them into our net. Macroinvertebrates can actually tell us quite a lot about the quality of water where they're found. By catching and counting the type and the number of species living in the stream, we can see how healthy the water is. Finding macroinvertebrates that have a low tolerance to pollution tells us that the water they're found in is relatively healthy. If we don't find these guys, then it could mean that some sort of pollution or problem is in our water source. Well, you can see that we found several species that are more sensitive to pollution, along with several species that are somewhat tolerant to pollution, like the crayfish, scuds, which kind of look like freshwater shrimp, and even bugs. Think freshwater roly-poly. Well, finding all of these told us that we have a decent amount of biodiversity. And by biodiversity, I just mean a number of different species and enough of each of those species to continue having babies. Well, based on what we found in South Creek, we think that the water quality is relatively healthy there for an urban stream running through the city of Springfield. So many of the macroinvertebrates that we end up catching are actually aquatic insects. And if you look up at the top left, you can see we have a riffle beetle, a dragonfly nymph, a couple of mayflies, and a stonefly. Other things we often catch are gastropods, like this gilled snail, or even crustaceans, like this crayfish. Well, even though these guys are pretty small, they're actually a vitally important link in an aquatic food chain between our primary producers, like algae and water plants, and our secondary consumers, like this bass. Well, so what is the point we're trying to make here? What impact does pollution have on the macroinvertebrates in the freshwater ecosystem? Well, aquatic macroinvertebrates are sensitive to pollution and changes to their habitat. When trash gets into the water source, it actually disturbs or takes away habitat from these guys. So if you're looking at the photos, look at all the trash that's kind of stuck and embedded down into the rocks at the bottom of the stream where they live. Even this caddisfly, who builds their case normally out of sand grains and other woody debris, if there's plastics that have broken down into very tiny pieces, scientists have studied that they're starting to build their cases out of plastic, and those cases are weaker and not as strong. Well, another effect it can have is like when plastic, like these cigarette filters, get into the environment, it can release harmful chemicals. And often these items, when they are released out into the stream, become like they look like a source of food to a lot of our macroinvertebrates, and it can make them sick or even kill them when they start eating these. Like if you look at the top, there's one of those dragonfly nymphs with a bunch of plastic embedded inside its tissue. Well, if these macroinvertebrates can't survive in the water, it actually creates an unhealthy or an unbalanced ecosystems. And since these guys are a vital link in our food web, and you start taking those links out of the food web, that can start a ripple effect or even a chain reaction, meaning that if you take those away, think about the species that eat those macroinvertebrates and the species that eat those species. Well, if one species loses its primary source of food, what happens to the rest? Well, what about us? Where do we fit into all of this? Well, what impact does litter pollution have on us humans? Well, aside from the fact that no one wants to fish, swim, kayak in a water source that looks and smells like a landfill, that's pretty gross. Well, also those chemicals and bacteria that come out of the trash and harm the macroinvertebrates are actually pretty unhealthy for us as well. If we swim in that water or accidentally swallow some, that can make us sick. Well, thinking deeper, without these filter feeding macroinvertebrates or even things like mussels and bivalves to clean the water quality actually goes down quite a bit. Even animals such as the fish and birds who eat these macroinvertebrates will die or move to other areas if their water quality is so full of pollution that they cannot support the macroinvertebrates. So that's too bad for those of us who really enjoy going fishing or bird watching. So how do we solve this problem? Well, just like litter pollution is not caused by any one person, if we all work together, we can tackle this. We have a motto here in Environmental Services that our combined efforts make one big impact. Also, if you think about the ocean connection, any efforts that we actually do here in the Ozarks will make a big difference across the nation, even across the world. And that's because no matter where you live, we all live downstream. And all the rivers, lakes, and streams here in the Ozarks eventually flow out into the ocean, carrying along with it all that trash and pollution along the way. Well, what are some ways that you can help? Well, you can become a litter lookout. Look out for litter in your neighborhood, carry a bag on your walks, make sure you have a bag handy in your car if you go on a picnic or stop in at a fast food drive-through. Another big thing that you can do is make sure that pesky trash and recycling is not actually escaping your curbside bin before the trash man picks it up. Things you can do at home is pre-prepare. Bring things like a lunchbox, a food container, reusable water bottles, even reusable straws. Those things all help prevent litter or waste before it becomes litter pollution. Well, also here in Springfield, we have things like Adopt a Stream. Missouri has Missouri Stream Teams. We have Adopt a Highway, even participate in our citywide initiative called Clean Green Springfield and help pick up litter across our entire community. Just remember that it takes every one of us doing our part. That's you.
And so Casey, that's it for us today. We hope that everyone will do their part to help keep our planet's water, freshwater resources clean and healthy.
Thank you both so much. I did have a couple of questions for you though.
Okay.
Yeah, so in your sampling, did you find that you found some macroinvertebrates in more clean water rather than in dirty water, or how does that work?
So we actually found macroinvertebrates, a bunch of different species and a bunch of numbers for each of those species. So we found species like those mayflies that were very sensitive to pollution. So if any pollution is actually in there, those guys can't survive. And we also found organisms like crayfish and scuds. They're slightly more tolerant, but again, we found that good biodiversity that we really want signaling that South Creek as an urban stream is relatively healthy.
Thank you so much. I have one more question, and that is, do you guys over at the Department of Environmental Services offer any programming for kick nets or stream ecology or macroinvertebrates, anything along those lines?
We have lots of different programs on lots of different topics. If it's related to taking care of our air, water, or land resources, we do have programs available, including teaching people how to do kick net sampling and taking them out into a stream. We do like to wait until the weather gets a little bit warmer to go do that.
Any online programs for our friends who are not located here in Springfield, Missouri?
Well, that is one of the things that we have expanded into, is being able to offer programs virtually. So we do have, we have the ability to conduct programs via Zoom and be able to show some demonstrations and some samples of things, some visuals. So yes, we have a wide variety of ways that we can help people learn about how to take care of all parts of our environment.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for talking today and being our partners. And thanks for explaining your programming that you guys do. So if you're located here in Springfield, Missouri or surrounding areas, make sure you go onto their website, check out and see what they have, okay? Thank you so much for joining us. It is super important to keep our waterways clean, and thank you so much for talking about that. So that is all of the time that we have for today. But before we go, I wanted to share an opportunity with you to get involved in Earth Day awareness and nature photography. So another great way to participate in conservation awareness this month is by visiting the Nature's Best Photography website. On this website, you will find multiple resources that show you the best methods for nature photography, as well as articles on recent endeavors that photographers have gone on. Browse this website for helpful how-tos and beautiful works of art using a lens and camera. Well, that is all the time that we have for this live stream, but we will see you next Tuesday as we talk about our newest mission for the month of May, Bird Basics, at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time with our partner all the way out in New Zealand, Orana Wild Park. Alrighty, so don't forget to tune in and remember to protect our Earth. We will see you then. Thank you.